Okay, good evening. I hope you're all doing okay. We had the past few days, I guess, were a bit of a roller coaster to some of us more than others. Definitely to the community as such, but I think also to people in their personal life. Um, we're now going into another seger, and I assume it brings up anxiety for many. Um, a good way to describe the state we're in, where it would be to say we are confused. And as I said, whoever saw the video I sent on Friday, confusion is a good state when it gets to Rosh Hashanah. Confusion is actually a state we should be in when Rosh Hashanah comes. I mentioned 2 weeks ago in my shiur, the Gemara in Masechet Rosh Hashanah that says, why do we blow the shofar? The first 30 blasts while sitting, and the rest of the blasts when we daven, we do it when standing. And the Gemara says, in order to confuse the Satan. Now, it sounds very strange. What does that mean? And I spoke a bit about it. I want to say a bit more about it. Satan seems to like order in two ways. When things are set, then the Satan has a clear target, and after a while, the setting of things themselves become his target, and I'll explain. First of all, as I said on Friday, when we set our minds to do something, then instead of going against us, the Satan decides to go with us. And when going with us, he makes us more excited than we even have to be. And when we do it, we're so excited, we're overzealous, and we end up destroying everything else. So an example I gave was a person goes to shul and is so intense with his davening or her davening that when someone talks behind them, it makes them takes them out of off balance, and they lash out. And now that's not proper behavior. But Satan would never manage to convince someone to lash out at someone else. But Satan could convince someone to be very, very intense in what they do. And once they are intense, then they'll lash out. So Satan is very clever that way. So this is what Chazal are saying. So in order to confuse the Satan, then we have to not get set in our ways too much. Meaning we always need to have our eyes open to the periphery. We have to keep our eye on the ball while at the same time seeing the full picture all the time. And it's not easy because the Satan likes to make us focus only on the ball and leave everything else. In other words, he turns the means into an end, makes it the most important thing on earth. But furthermore, that's only the beginning. But then what happens is that once our ways are set, and we have a tendency to like order. We don't like it when things are too flux and too confused. And once things are set and we have a routine, then we basically fall asleep. We don't need to be alert anymore. When things are flux and dynamic and changing all the time, we have to be alert because things may change into something dangerous, into something dangerous, either physically or spiritually, it doesn't matter, but we're always alert. When things do not change, then we get comfortable, and after a while we could fall asleep. And in that sense, Satan also makes sure that we fall asleep and living life, just not living it fully, but having it happen to us rather than creating it is the saddest thing on earth. I want to tell you a few stories of, and today the shiur would be more stories than Mekorot, because there is a certain, I want to get something across, and I think I could get it across better with through stories than through sources, but there'll be some sources as well. Rav Steinsaltz always used to, when I went to high school, I went to Steinsaltz, and Rav Steinsaltz, who passed away only a month and a week ago, he always used to talk to us about living life truly living. And what does that mean? So once upon a time, this was on Purim, a boy came to him, and the boy was half drunk. It was in his home, and people were drinking. And he tells Rav Steinsaltz, "Oh, Rebbe, I'm such a sinner. I deserve malkot. Give me malkot." And Rav Steinsaltz got all excited, and he said, "Really? Tell me of a really juicy avera that you did. I'm really interested in hearing." And the boy starts thinking, and he thinks a bit more. He says, I can't really think of anything. Well, maybe one day I didn't wake up on time. The other day, I didn't really listen in class the way I should. Rav Steinsaltz stopped him and he said, "That's not a sinner. You don't have even one serious sin. You're not a sinner. You're just a batlan. You're a nobody." So what did he mean by that? He meant by that something he said another time. He always used to tell us, "You are a bunch of potatoes." And I'm very unhappy with it. He says, if I wanted to raise potatoes, I wouldn't be an educator. I would go and be a farmer. He said, "What do I mean when I say you are potatoes?" He says, potatoes, a farmer takes a potato, puts it in the ground, and the potato grows, and then has a bush comes apart and a flower, but the potato just does its thing like a potato does its thing. He says, that's exactly what you guys are doing. You're just doing your thing. You're just going through the motions. You're not really alive. Once upon a time, we got into a fight with another school. So this was when Steinsaltz, today Steinsaltz is in Kfar Etzion. This was when Steinsaltz was in Mekor Chaim. We got into a fight with the school above us, which was Ort Spanyan, and there was a basketball court between the two schools, and we were fighting over it. We got into a fight, and they beat us to a pulp. And we came back to Yeshiva, and Rav Steinsaltz a few days later visited Yeshiva, and he said, "I'm very disappointed," and he really gave it to us. He says, "You know something, if you would have decided you're not going to fight, then fine. You decided you're not going to fight, you didn't fight, and that's okay. But that was not your decision. You did try to hit back. You were just wimps. They were stronger than you and they beat you up." He said, if you decide you do something, then you do it seriously. So now, again, what did he mean by that? Baal HaTanya taught that being a Beinoni, in order to be a Beinoni, an average person, Chazal speak on Rosh Hashanah, 3 books are open. Sifam shel tzadikim, sifam shel beinonim, sifam shel reshaim. So a wicked person, we know who he is, and a tzaddik is a great person, someone who does the right thing. The beinoni is an average person. Baal HaTanya in the Tanya teaches that a beinoni is actually a great person as well. A beinoni is not an average. A beinoni is someone who is in constant fight, in constant struggle. And that's not average at all. But what Rav Steinsaltz taught us is that not only a beinoni is a daga, is something, but even a rasha is something. Meaning most people are not even, most of us are not even reshaim. We just let life happen to us. We don't do good things. We're not tzaddikim. We're definitely not beinonim, but we're not even reshaim. We don't try to do even bad things. We simply do not. We're just, wherever life takes us, it takes us. And Rav Steinsaltz was very, 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 his main thing that he used to tell us is live life fully. You decide what you want to do, have a target, and go there. Whatever that target is. If it's the wrong target, then I'll argue with you over the target. But first set a target. Right now, I'm arguing with, I'm encouraging you to have a target. The Satan makes us fall asleep. He makes life to just happen to us. We lose focus. We have no target. I mean, here and there, yes, someone needs a favor, we'll do a favor. We do this, we do that. But even the good things that we do, well, do we do them because we truly decided we want to do it, or do we do it because we're in a position where it's difficult to say no? Under these circumstances, okay, so I'll do it. What am I? It's lo naim, right? Lo naim, not to do it. So even the good thing, the question is not what we do, but why we do it, because the why we do things is a very important question at all, as well. And on Rosh Hashanah with the Satan, that is the point. The Satan brings us to Rosh Hashanah, and he could bring us to Rosh Hashanah convincing us that we are wonderful people because we're always doing the right thing. But the question is, are we doing the right thing for the right reasons? And it could be that we never say no to people. We always do say yes. We always do whatever people want. But inside, we're so bitter because of that, that we hate ourselves and the world and everything. And what good is that? There is no point in doing the right thing or what other people might perceive as the right thing if inside it causes us to be all bitter. Then perhaps for us, the right thing would be to not do all these things, to say no. But we don't have the courage to say no. So in that case, again, the Satan here is playing a game. He's making us the good look like bad, the bad look like good. But we have to realize that not the good and the bad are not always good and bad. Meaning sometimes something is right. In another context, it's wrong. So the main thing is to have control over life and over ourselves, over our lives. And having control over our lives is only by being alert, only by realizing life, not allowing life to happen to us. So in that sense, confusing the Satan means not falling into habit, into a routine. And I think in that, and obviously the shofar, that is what it does. It's first and foremost, it's merbev the Satan. It's an alarm. All of a sudden, it's an alarm. That's what the Rambam says. That afal pishik zerat hakatuvu, remez yesh bo, uru yashinim mishnatchem. You slumbers, awake from your sleep and start living life. That is, after all, what the shofar does. But with time, we get used to the shofar. As children, we might have been more excited. as adults, we come to shul and we convince ourselves that we are excited because, again, we have rituals that with time we assign importance to those rituals. And the shofar obviously is one of those rituals. We come to shul and it's serious. But serious in what sense? Well, why is it serious? What does it do to us? Well, it's an important ritual. But then again, with time, it just became another ritual in our life. And this year, Hashem came with a corona. And I think the corona basically is another type of alarm because it mixes our lives all together. This year, the shofar stopped me'arbevet ha-satan. It stopped confusing the Satan. But the corona is now confusing the Satan. In what sense? That it is destroying our routine. If the tkiyot are standing, sitting, then now we don't know, just a minute. Are we going to shul? Are we not going to shul? The tefillot, all of a sudden, we cannot have our regular tefillot that we have every year. What's going on here? We're out of our comfort zone. That is the alarm. That is what the shofar should have done, but this year the corona is doing it. And in this sense, just a minute. Sorry. I had a very tough time convincing people what parts should be taken out of the davening. From a halachic perspective, the parts that should be taken out of the davening, the first ones that should be taken out are the piyutim. But for people, the piyutim are the most important experience of Rosh Hashanah. Without the piyutim, what is Rosh Hashanah? And what I've been constantly hearing when I was telling them, look, if you want, they said, we want to daven within 2.5 hours. I said, okay, if you take out the piyutim, then that's it. You have 2.5 hours. You can do the tefillah. No. We want the piyutim. Why do we want the piyutim? Because the piyutim are the most important thing. What is Rosh Hashanah without the songs, without that? That gives us the experience. But the truth of the matter is that the piyutim are the least significant part of the tefillah. Now, this is a novelty, something that these people never knew. Now, here's an opportunity. You never knew that the piyutim are the least significant part of the tefillah. Now you know that. Let's delve into it. Let's re-examine our whole Rosh Hashanah experience. No, we don't want to do that. We want our piyutim. Let's look what else we could do. Let's take out something else because the piyutim we're not going to touch. Where does that come from? That comes from the Satan that loves routine. This is our Rosh Hashanah. This is how I understand Rosh Hashanah. This is how Rosh Hashanah had always been. I don't want Rosh Hashanah to be different. This is what I want. And this is, without that, what am I going to do? I'll be totally disorientated, and that cannot happen. That's not allowed to happen. But in fact, being disorientated is the gift of Rosh Hashanah. That's the best thing that could happen to us. It would make us seriously try to figure out, just a minute, why is it that I thought these things are important, but in fact, they are important. It's not that the piyutim are not important, they are important, but perhaps other parts are more important. Those parts that I usually sleep through, those parts that the Chazan mumbles that no one listens to are in fact the most important parts of the tefillah. So maybe this is an opportunity to pay attention to that. In fact, I don't know how many people know this, but the Shulchan Aruch holds the Beit Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Karo, he is posek that you are not allowed to say piyutim in Chazarat Hashatz. So all the piyutim that we say, according to Rabbi Yosef Karo, we're not allowed to be saying them. But we do say that. The Ramah says that we could say it. The Ramah says that since the minhag is to say it, then it's okay. Says whoever wants to not say it doesn't have to, but whoever says it is not.
To a genuine engagement that protects the rights and interests of.
I suppose that's, sorry. No one was talking to us. Yeah, so that's, that was someone that came to La'arbev et HaSatan. That was. So here we are. Every year we think the piyutim are the most important thing, and all of a sudden, wow, they're not. And here I want to. Why are the piyutim so important to people? Because they are what bring people the experience, the singing, the emotions. They bring the ambiance of Rosh Hashanah that we are so used to. But is that really the important thing? I want to tell you, I want to describe my two of my rabbis, their tefillah, and through that to try and explain what I mean. When I came to Gush the first year, I didn't have a place in the Beit Midrash yet. It was a bit of a balagan at the beginning of the year. It came Rosh Hashanah, and I didn't have a place to sit. So I came to the guy that was in charge for finding places for Rosh Hashanah, and he gave me a place at the very end of the Beit Midrash. I thought that's not a good enough place. So Erev Rosh Hashanah, I came in, and I see that at the sides of Beit HaMidrash, they placed seats, and up until the two Rashi Yeshivot were sitting in the front. And on the side of Rav Lichtenstein, there were seats, and I thought there was room for another seat between the last seat and Rav Lichtenstein himself. So I found a chair, brought it in, put it there, and that's where I sat for Rosh Hashanah. That was the most magnificent Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur I ever had. Rav Lichtenstein and davening, he was like Malach Hashem Tzvakot. He was an angel. He was on fire. He was literally on fire. He was glowing. Throughout the Tefillah, he stood the entire Tefillot, concentrating, bursting out at times, and holding himself intense at others. It was truly an experience. Now, it was interesting because this is my Litvisher rabbi. This is my Mitnaged Rav, who's not a Chassid. And now let me tell you about another Rav, who I mentioned before, Rav Steinsaltz, who was a Chassid. His davening was the very opposite. I remember my first year at Steinsaltz. I'm standing on, I think it was even Yom Kippur. I'm looking at Rav Steinsaltz during the Amidah, and I couldn't tell whether he's looking at the Siddur or whether he's reading a Parsha pamphlet, because he had no emotion whatsoever on his face, nothing. And it seemed as if nothing is happening. But a lot was happening. I knew a lot was happening because I saw him. He was looking like this, like as if he was learning the Siddur. He was looking like this. He puts it like this, and he goes back, and he goes again there. Like, it was more like studying than davening. And I was wondering what he was doing. Years later, I discovered what he was doing. Rav Steinsaltz was a Chassid. And for Chassidim, emotion is very, very important. But for Chabad Hasidim, it's Chokhmah Bina Dat. Chokhmah Bina Dat is what is happening here in the mind. The mind is the important part, and the emotion must be controlled by the mind. So the emotion is important, but only once it's controlled. In that sense, I want to share an anecdote of Rav Steinsaltz again, when he once told us of machzorim, of old Yekish machzorim that say, the Frankfurt kan bochim. There's a point in the machzor where it says, in Frankfurt, here they cry. Now you would expect Rav Steinsaltz to be cynical and make fun of the whole thing, but he wasn't. He said, that's wonderful, that's true, that's being Jewish. Jews can decide when to cry and where is appropriate to cry, where is appropriate to laugh. Already Chazal tell us, Mishenichnas Av, Mematim Besimcha, Mishenichnas Adar, Marbim Besimcha. We can control our emotions. And our emotions can be such emotions that stem from an intellectual experience, meaning they began as an intellectual experience, and once our intellect asserts that this is the right emotion to have right now, then we may feel it. Now, that is truly controlling oneself, and one might think, but that is a robot. But no, people that operate that way are very emotional, but they control their emotions. Rav Steinsaltz was a very emotional person, but he was fully in control the whole time. By the way, Rav Lichtenstein as well. It's very interesting. Even though the one was a Chassid, the one was a Litvak, they were very similar in that sense. Now, when Rav Steinsaltz was davening, he was trying to reach higher emotions than just the lowest ones that one can get. And I'll explain what I mean. If I look at the Piyutim, and I look at Malchuyot, Zichronot, Veshofarot. Malchuyot, Zichronot, Veshofarot at first glance are just recitations, quotations of psukim, of random psukim, of Shofarot, Malchuyot. Very difficult to find anything uplifting there. When we look at the Piyutim talk of uplifting things, and they're wonderful and spiritual, and they really evoke strong emotions within us. But in that sense, it is exactly like pop music versus classical music. Pop music appeals to the masses, to people that are not able to evoke higher, that are not as cultured or are not, are more, it's the lower common denominator of people, while classic music or classic, they appeal to people who had refined their aesthetic understanding and or abilities, and they're able to appreciate something that is more than just a popular song. And I think with the Piyutim and the Tfilot itself, that is exactly what we have. Now every year we fall for the for the pop. This year, I think we have an opportunity, because we have less than the popular culture, quote unquote. We have more of the real thing. We have the bare bones in our hands. We have an opportunity to really try and up our experience. The experience from Malchuyot, Zichronot, Veshofarot cannot be the same as Piyutim. That's true. They don't evoke the same emotions, but we could try and understand them, and then they might evoke even more, something even higher within us. there are, if we get into the structure of Malchuyot, Zichronot, Veshofarot, and what they stand for, and why these psukim, and what is the meaning, that there is so much to understand and learn and know about it, that it could be amazing. And here we have, I think, this year we really have an opportunity to go there. That is one point. Another point is I'm a bit, I don't know if disappointed might be a strong word, but I can't think of a less, it is too much, it is a stronger word than I want to express. It's not this way, but I'm a bit, I don't know. I can't think of a less stronger word, but that has to do with my English, less with my with the way I feel. But I'll use disappointed. But you think of a word which is less less than that. I'm a bit disappointed with the people's with our fixation on the experience. I think the experience is very important, but there are other important things which play a role. And here I want to share another story with you. When I was in South Africa, in Port Elizabeth, there was an African prince called something Gamdaza from Swaziland, who converted and became Jewish. He lives in Tzfat. I think he's now living there for 30 years already. He was the heir to the throne in Swaziland. He was supposed to be the next king, but he converted. He became Jewish, and he came to visit Johannesburg, and he then at that visit he saw his family for the first time after 17 years, because at first they didn't come to terms with him. They couldn't come to terms with him becoming Jewish, but then they did. So, when he came, then he was interviewed on television, and it was him, a Native American, like like a Native American who practices their pagan religion, and a Christian, and an Indian, I forgot if it was, it wasn't Buddhist for sure. I think it was Hindu, but I'm not sure. But it was a few Eastern religions, Christianity, and this Natan, his name then became Natan Gamdaza, and they asked what the various people, what spiritual life, what religion gives them, and they were all describing, gives me inner peace. It's balance in life, spirituality, all types of things that it gives them. Then they got to this Natan Gamdaza, and he was asked, like everyone else, what does religion give you? And his answer was, nothing. Gives me nothing. What do you mean it gives you nothing? He says, I believe I have certain duties and I fulfill them. It's not about what it gives me. It's about what my duty in life, how do I align myself in regard to the truth? Now, that's such a Jewish answer, first of all, because really the main thing in Judaism is halakha, and we all know that when the first thing we are committed to as Jews is to all mitzvot, the yoke of the commandments, And that is what this Natan said. It's not about me. It's about my duty. And then he continued to say, he said, look, it could be that there are side benefits, but that's not what things are about. It's about fulfilling my duty, carrying out God's commandments. And I think here too, when it comes to Yom Adin, to Rosh Hashanah, then yes, it evokes certain emotions with us. And there is that Rosh Hashanah that we are used to and that we want that experience. But then again, is it first of all about us, or is it first of all about what our duty is? So first of all, we have to figure out if we reach a conclusion, we must shorten the service. Then the question is, according to our duty, what do we leave in? And then hopefully that will also be okay with our experience. But to have our experience guide what we leave in, I think that is a bit problematic. Now, the truth is that I fooled you. The truth is that I fooled you because I portrayed those that wanted piyutim as those who are set in routine, while I portrayed myself as fighting for other things as not set in routine. But the truth is the opposite, because the piyutim are the special parts of the tefillah. The psukei de zimra are what we say every day, are what we say, the psukei de zimra, the birkot kriyat shema, the amidah. Okay, so on Rosh Hashanah we have the birkat hayom and malchuyot, zichronot, v'shofarot, but other than that, the important parts are the routine, and that is exactly so. Chazal say, tadir v'sheino tadir, tadir kodem. We usually think that the special takes precedent. Chazal say, no, the ordinary takes precedent. את הכבש האחד תעשה בבוקר ואת הכבש השני תעשה בין הערביים. The two korbanot that were brought every day to Beit HaMikdash, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. זה כלל גדול בתורה. That is the great principle in the Torah, the Midrash says. So routine is the most holy principle. And the most holy parts of the tefillah are those that we say routinely every day, the Shema, the Amidah, the Pesukei, that we say every day. So what am I talking about? The Satan likes routine. We love routine. The Satan likes novelties. He likes piyutim. He likes new things. Now, so the first question is, what's going on here? The second question is, how did I manage to fool you up until now when I was saying that the piyutim are the routine? Well, obviously they're not. So how did I fool you so well? Maybe I didn't. Maybe you were just polite. You didn't want to go off mute and tell me that I'm talking nonsense. What do you think? Does anyone want to say anything about it before I go on? No volunteer. Okay, so I'll say why I think I was right. In one sense, yes, Psukei de Zimra are the routine. Piyutim are not. In another sense, it's the other way around. Now, why is it the other way around? It is the other way around because, as I said before, oh, you're right. You're right, Richard. It's a rabbi, Natan Gamedze. He's a rabbi. Should have said that. Thank you. So why is it that the piyutim are not our daily routine, but they are our Rosh Hashanah routine. And we look forward to our Rosh Hashanah routine because we need that change. But because we need that change, we set change at regular intervals in our lives. Because on the one hand, we want change because without change, our life becomes boring. On the other hand, we don't want change to get out of hand, so we set it at regular intervals. But we need to hold on to that special change. On the other hand, the Psukei Zimra are routine, that's true. But when we hold on to routine, even in extraordinary circumstances, that makes the ordinary extraordinary. Because if comes a time when that I say, no, you know something, I can't do it. I have to give it up. And I want the more special. I don't want the ordinary. And I say, no, the special I don't take. I take the ordinary. Then that in and of itself gave the ordinary a certain elevation. It made it special. And here I want to come back to the first shiur that I gave. On the first day, by the way, I forgot to come back to Shabbat. I forgot to come back to Shabbat, and that was terrible. But I'll try and come back to it today. I spoke about the Akedah. And in the Akedah, Avraham Avinu goes to sacrifice his son, but at the end doesn't do so. And he goes until the last moment, and a split second before he would have done so, that is when he stops. And I said, what's the point there? The point is because you want it, whatever you do, or whatever you don't do, you want to do it or not do it for the right reasons. So let's say two people do not, let's give an example. In certain communities, they fight for aliyot. Now, Baruch Hashem, in our community, I don't know people fighting for aliyot. I don't think people fight for aliyot here, but in certain communities they do. I once had a rabbi who said, you know something, it's very nice that we don't fight for aliyot. But why don't we fight for aliyot? Is it because we know we shouldn't fight, or because we don't care about the aliyot? Meaning, the question is, regarding other things that are important to us, do we fight about, do we don't fight also about them, or about the important things to whatever is important to us, then we will fight. If someone did something to us and offended us in some way, then we'll get into a serious fight. When it comes to an aliyah, we'll say, yeah, that's fine. Why? Because maybe it's because we don't truly cherish the concept of an aliyah and what it is, etc., etc. Now, it's not that whoever fights does. Yes, they also might do it for the wrong reason. But whatever we do or not do, there is always a ma'ala of doing it for the right reasons. Meaning, I know and I cherish and I care for aliyot la Torah. I truly and fully understand its significance. But I don't fight over it because I know that fighting is not good, and it's even less, and it's more important not to fight than having aliyah. That's a different thing. So also here, as I said 2 weeks ago, if we believe that taking that sacrificing everything which is important, there is such a religious calling. Obviously, it's a terrible call to actually take out, to actually commit. But the question is, why aren't we committing it? Are we not committing it because of the real reason, because it's morally repugnant, or because the religious zeal is not really there? If the religious zeal would be there, would our morality be able to actually stop us from doing it? That's also a question. Is our sense of morality strong enough to really stand against a real religious zeal? And that is, in a sense, the story of the Akedah. And that is why the Ayin, the ram, is so significant to the Akedah, because at the end of the day, an important part of the Akedah is that Abraham didn't do it. That even though he had that full religious zeal to do it, he didn't do it. That religious zeal that we don't have, but he did have. That yearning to God, that commitment, that burning commitment to burn everything, to give everything he has to God. He had it, but he knew to stop himself. He knew to put that moral boundary in place and not actually go overboard. So he goes up until that, but doesn't do it. And I think here too, when we come to a question of what is routine, then many times what determines if something is, we're doing it, it might be a routine. It might be something that we do every day. But if we are excited and do it out of a sense of true commitment to God every day afresh, then that is not routine. The problem with routine is that we just go through the motions, is that just we do it because we did it yesterday. But if today we don't do it because we did it yesterday, today we do it because today we have a new commitment to God, then that is not routine anymore. So Sukkot Zimra, the fact that we do them every day, doesn't turn them into a routine if every day we have that new religious zeal. And here I want to come back to Shabbat. Can you picture a Shabbat, a Rosh Hashanah, without Tkiyat Shofar at all? First and second day? Well, Chazal could have, and they did. Because when Rosh Hashanah was one day, when it fell on Shabbat, you didn't blow the shofar. And you had a Rosh Hashanah without shofar at all. Now, from an experience point of view, that takes away from Rosh Hashanah the whole point. And why? Why? Because Chazal said, we don't want a person to carry it outside the Eruv. So because maybe one person would carry the shofar outside the Eruv, and here it's important to understand. It's not that from the Torah there is an obligation and Chazal said, no, you don't have to, according to most understanding. According to the Torah, on Shabbat, you are allowed to, but you don't have to. Meaning when Rosh Hashanah falls on a weekday, then you must blow the shofar. When it falls on Shabbat, you don't have to. But if you want to, you could. Now, most people would want to blow the shofar because that's the experience of Rosh Hashanah, and Chazal say no. Why? Because there's a technicality. So because a small technicality, we wave away that great experience that stands at the center of what Rosh Hashanah is all about. Why? Because at the end of the day, the thing that comes first is our commitment. And around that commitment, the experience is built. And the experience will not be as strong if it doesn't have that strong commitment at its core. An experience that is focused on itself and mainly on itself will fade over time. Give it a generation or two, and it will go away. But if it surrounds a strong commitment, a commitment that comes even before the experience, then that experience with the commitment will stay much longer than 1 or 2 generations. And if I ask myself, what really left, what allowed us, what made Judaism survive throughout the generations, then I think first and foremost, it was that commitment, was that strong commitment, unwavering commitment to halakha that really didn't sacrifice almost everything for the sake of the absolute commitment to Hashem. And around that, then obviously we have an experience, we have a lot of things surrounding it, but at the core is the important commitment. And at times of corona, when we are rattled, when we are alarmed, and all of a sudden we have to do things differently, then it makes us realize, well, what are those important things, and what are those things that are just there for the experience? The experience is wonderful, but what is at the core? At the core is the commitment. And I think one thing that this corona is making us realize on Rosh Hashanah is that the experience is wonderful, but the commitment is what is really important. And the commitment is at the center. So in that sense, I see that as the silver lining in the corona, and but obviously it comes with a lot of suffering as well, and it's not easy for some more than others, and we have to pay attention to those surrounding us and to make sure that we are all managing, and that people around us are managing as well. And Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll get through Rosh Hashanah. Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll get through this Seger. It's not going to be easy. I have a feeling it's going to be longer than what the Memshalah now is saying it is. But Be'ezrat Hashem, it will make us stronger. It will make us realize certain things. It would make us grow. And in the future, we'll be looking back at this time and seeing what we learned. And Be'ezrat Hashem will learn good things. So I wish us all a Shana Tova, and may we take our commitment forward.
Shana Tova.
יישר כוח, שנה טובה.
Shana Tova.